What's going on, Browns fans? Welcome back to the Cleveland Policy YouTube channel. I am your host, as always, Justin Harold. And with me today, my co-host back, Jeff Santa.
Let's go.
We're going to get into some Browns news, talk some players, talk some early preseason. We know it's not over yet, but we're going to wrap up here, get into some a little bit of some ups and downs, see if anyone's popped out, if anyone's popped out in the wrong way, and who might be looking at an early cut. But, Jeff, it's been a while since I've talked to you about Browns. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a preseason, and me and you are both really consistent believers that between OTAs, between practices, between joint practices, between preseason, it doesn't really matter as far as the starters. Sure, you want to get a couple drives in, make sure that all, things are looking good. Maybe the playbook gets revamped a little bit, which are things that we've seen, I think are good. And then it's pretty much just who wants to prove themselves or kind of look bad from there on out. So I think we got some things to talk about. It hasn't been two boring preseason games. We can't really say that. They've been interesting games up against good opponents, teams that look somewhat competent, and we got a lot to get into.
Yeah, and of course preseason games are always very minor in terms of when you're talking about starters and whatnot, but we're not necessarily talking about starters today. We are going to be talking about two players each from me and Jeff, one who's done well and one who we think might be on the edge of being cut, or someone that we think is a hot take of getting cut. For me, I'm just going to start right away with who I've really liked, and it's tough for me to get into it because obviously he hasn't had a whole lot of catches and everything, but the talk around camp and what I've seen, I am very much a Tillman fan.
Okay.
And I know it's he was a big name that everyone was kind of attached to when we got out of the draft and everything. It was, we didn't have any first round picks. We didn't have any second round picks. I understand. For me, I understand this is a very crowded wide receiver room. It's one where you don't even know if a guy like Tillman will ever see the field during the regular season. You got Amari, you got Elijah, you got DPJ. There's your three starters right there. And then not to even mention your guy that you drafted last year, David Bell, guys that you've brought in the past, Jakeem Grant, Schwartz, who is still on the roster. That's one that's, if Schwartz is on the roster by the end of this year, we're gonna by the end of this, I'm sorry, not even the year, by the preseason, we're gonna be talking here for sure. But for me, Tillman kind of just checks off. One, naturally gifted. You gotta love that. You gotta love the height. You gotta love the strength in him. But for me, the intangibles of a wide receiver, and it's hard to get into these things. And again, I'm a D tackle talking about the wide receiver position. When you watch a guy like Tillman, and again, you see it with guys that are big, like DK Metcalf and whatnot. When you see these guys get separation on comeback routes and on not on go routes, but on in and out routes, when they're able to get that separation, they're go-to guys. And if you guys remember back to what Jarvis did really, really well, a lot of it was the outs and the ins because he's got that step in the cut. And I know that it's something that you can say about almost practically every wide receiver, but someone who is on the down pecking order of this group of wide receivers, I would put him at 4 right now. And I know that's not saying anything crazy, but again, I'm just projecting out there that Tillman, he's DPJ-esque, where you don't expect too much out of him in his first year, but I think he could really, blow up if an injury happens or he's called on for whatever reason, but that's just my take.
I mean, I agree with you there because he really is just a DPJ replacement. If that money doesn't work out there, very similar build. But what's interesting is that, and by no means a comparison here, because I think DPJ could do the same thing as Cedric Tillman, but it kind of would be reminiscent of, and DeAndre Hopkins was only 6'1", Cedric Tillman 6'3", but Hopkins kind of plays like a bigger wide receiver. Like you perceive him as physical. And one of Deshaun Watson's favorite targets. So if you could get an archetype wide receiver like that he's had good chemistry with in the past, I think it's interesting. And there's future ramifications for him for sure. He could play a bigger role, definitely starting as soon as next year. I totally agree with you. So I'm going to go 2 hot takes in this video because just to start off, the player who really has impressed me the most, which I think this is kind of an easy one, but it has a little hot take on the end, is DTR, Dorian Thompson Robinson. I mean, he just looks confident back there. I think he's smart. and he's not playing. He's not playing on this team this year unless catastrophic things happen. It's nice to be like, oh, this is a guy we drafted in the 5th round, but this is where it gets interesting. And this is the hot take. I think a team calls us to trade for him this year. As early as this year. He was at UCLA for a long time. He knew their playbook, which, as everything I've read, is an NFL ready, pro style playbook. And he's smart. Like he just like looks like he is out there making smart decisions. I think if a team who's kind of in a semi rebuild, or a team who doesn't have really good quarterback prospects right now, even as far as their second or third guys, will call us about him. And he was a 5th round pick, like in the 140th overall pick. So, I mean, if you could get some value back from that guy based off of 2 or 3 preseason games, that'd be pretty crazy by Andrew Berry.
I love that outside of the fact of trading him, because and this is just me. Obviously, I'm a future proofer at times.
He's just not going to play that. Like he's not going to play the next 4 years.
Absolutely. I totally hear you. But realistically, I don't think someone is going to trade for,
could be the case.
If anything, he'd get stolen off of the practice squad if we didn't protect him, which I think will, like you're saying, I think and you're not wrong, for the 4th-string guy who came into camp as the 4th-string guy, he's outplayed Mon. Mon's gone. That's for sure.
For sure.
Dobbs has been brought back because of what he did last year.
And you're playing Dobbs in a tight situation because he has more NFL experience. That's the only nod you'd really give over Dobbs. And Dobbs is pretty smart too.
Absolutely. And that's the big thing, Jeff. I mean, all these quarterbacks is, I think, of course, what Stefanski is doing. He's going out there and getting people who can understand the playbook, understand the reads. I think that's the big thing with all 4 of the guys. All 4 of them have capability to make that decision, run with the ball, and get going. But Jeff, what was the other hot take that you had?
So my second hot take is the player who has made the worst impression for multiple reasons, and he's going to make the roster. But if he struggles in the first 1 or 2 weeks, I think we'll get rid of him, and it's Cade York. I don't understand it. It's the preseason. Like this is just his image just looks so bad. Like I get you won us a singular game last year, but you didn't really kick good last year.
The first game. Okay, he was a year at the beginning and then 0 the rest of the season.
And it's like I'm already at the point where it's like I don't even think that. Like, I can't even justify where we selected him as reason to keep him, because that's just a sunk cost at this point. Like maybe it's a mistake, pack up and move on. But we do not have room for error to be missing kicks and losing games because you're missing kicks. So I think if he doesn't come out and put up a good performance, 6 out of 7, 7 out of 8, as far as field goals and extra points combined the first 2 weeks, I'll give you 1 miss. I really will. But if you miss a PAT and you miss a field goal in the same game, depending on
missing a PAT as an NFL kicker, there's no reason. And you can't be missing things from 20 yards.
But that's going to be a Haslam thing, because I feel bad, because Barry would probably ride that out. To the best of our knowledge and how Barry operates, Barry would ride that out. If he stinks the first 2 games, I think Haslam is going to Barry and saying, get rid of this guy, find anybody random off the street, and we'll work from there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Jeff, and I can be done with York right now as well. I do give the idea of it, the benefit of the doubt, because we've had such bad kicking, and there's no right answer out there. There just isn't. But this is from Twitter. I literally saw this right as we got started, Jeff. ESPN Cleveland put this out saying, from Tony Grossi, he's trying to show some patience, bring this guy along and get over this mental hurdle. Tony Grossi on Stefanski thinking about Cade York. Then on top of that, Chops also brought up that Tony brings up a very good point here. Stefanski was there when the Vikings gave up on Daniel Carlson after 2 games, and then he became one of the best kickers in the league with the Raiders. So to your point, Jeff, Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski might hold it out, but we know the Haslam's. We know that the Haslam's were the people. Hey, did anyone give the time of day to that Johnny Manziel documentary? Because I didn't. And if you did,
I went right by it on Netflix. No way.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. And if
you did,
you should know that The Haslams have been doing things like this since back then, and they will continue to do so for as long as they're going to be here and not leave.
But also, Justin, like, it's September. Like you have a tough job kicking the AFC North, let alone Cleveland Browns Stadium, and formerly or newly Cleveland Browns Stadium. But it's like you can't miss kicks in good weather in September. You're gonna have 30-mile-an-hour wind games off the lake. You're gonna have snow games. You're gonna have sleet, rain, hail. Like, you're like, I'm fine. I'll let you off the hook for misses. December 24th, 2023. Yeah. But when it's September 17th, September 24th, and it's like 65, 75, and there's like no breeze, like, you got to be good.
At this point, I'm about to go searching for the Fountain of Youth so I can go and find Phil Dawson and ask him to come back. Can I get on my knees and beg the guy for forgiveness that we traded him to San Francisco in the time that he was the person who probably led our team in scores?
Oh, for sure.
Anyways, I'm going to get on to my surprise cut / hot take. This is only a hot take because if you've been here with us for the past 2 years, I just constantly talk about this guy. And unfortunately, because of how he came to the team and his position in the team, what position he plays, he is just going to get out rostered. AJ Green.
Okay.
Cornerback who undrafted during 2 years ago when we had Greedy and Denzel as your starting, or Greedy, Denzel and Greg as your starting corners. They both went out. It was Greedy and AJ Green in the Chargers game. Everyone will remember the call against him. That wasn't pass interference, which was great coverage. He's going to get cut because there's Martin Emerson, there's Denzel Ward, there's Greg Newsome, and then there's Cameron Mitchell, who has been playing very well amongst other wide receiver cornerbacks that have been drafted, unlike AJ Green. That's my surprise and my hot take because I love the guy. Honestly, if you want a cut that isn't going to be too surprising crazy, Jacob Phillips is just going to get cut in general and probably going to end his career. And that's unfortunate because I thought the guy had a lot of talent, but just every year, injury, not a single year that he's played 16, 17 games. So,
yep. Crazy.
John, anything else before we call this one a quits?
Nope. Sounds all good to me. Good discussion.
You think Anthony Schwartz is going to boom in the last preseason game?
No,
you think he's going to turn things around and
he would need
something to look
he would need
forward to?
3 touchdowns and 250 yards to be kept, and that he might be already gone.
Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page with that, and hopefully you all are on the same page with that as well. Because if you're not and you're an Anthony Schwartz lover, you're going to have to tell us in the comments because I don't believe you, and I don't think there's one of you out there, but could be. Outside of that, please make sure you guys are subscribing, liking, and hitting the comments up. Please make sure you're hitting the bell notification. And with that being said, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.